All right, now that we are familiar with the looping structures in C++, we're going to use those in order to be able to force valid input. Because it's really nice to be able to say to the user, give me a number between 1 and 10. But it would be really great to say, no, I said give me a number between 1 and 10. No, I said give me a number between 1 and 10. And being able to force valid input when I ask you for a number between 1 and 10, I would like to be able to hold you there or force that valid input until you give me a number between 1 and 10. And so we're going to use the two different looping structures in order to be able to force that valid input. Here's an example of using a while loop. So the start value, enter a value, give me a number between 1 and 10. And then I can say, while they have not given me a number between 1 and 10, I can say, wait a minute, that wasn't a number between 1 and 10, do it again. And so the change of the condition inside of the while loop is going to say, that wasn't right, do it again. Here's an example of using a do while to do exactly the same thing. This time, inside of the do, I'm going to say, give me a number between 1 and 10, and I'm going to check the condition on the while that if they didn't give me the number between 1 and 10, I'm going to ask them again, give me a number between 1 and 10. Give me a number between 1 and 10, and I will hold them there until they actually give me the value that I am looking for. Now we're going to see that there is a difference between these two. They both accomplish the same thing, but there is a slight difference between the two. So we're going to try it out, and we're going to see if we can figure out what that difference is between those two. And then you're going to get to decide which one you prefer. All right, we have a lot of loops running through this one, so how about if we create a new project? We called the other one section 4.1. I'm going to create a new console app. And from here, we're going to call this section, we'll call it 4.2, forcing valid input. I'll even say valid input or something like that. We'll put it on my desktop so I know where to find it in the future. Put them both in my desktop. And then I am going to update the format of this template. So I'm going to get rid of the cout hello. I'm going to import, or I'm going to use the standard namespace. I'm actually going to bring up that opening brace right to the beginning. If you notice, the template has it below. I'm just going to bring it up to the beginning of the statement. And then I'm going to put a return 0 in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can force valid input. That's what we would like to be able to do here. So let's see if we can force a range. I'm pretty sure one of the things that I said was, if I ask you for a number between 1 and 10, I'd like to be able to say, wait, it's not between 1 and 10. So let's see if we can force the range from 1 to 10 using, how about if we do a while loop? So we'll try to do it with a while loop. So I'm going to create a variable called int num, and then I'm going to see out something like, enter a number between 1 and 10. So I'm going to be kind of explicit in what I want from my user, a number between 1 and 10. I'll see in their number. And then I'm going to check. So I'm going to say while their number is not between 1 and 10. So I'll say if number is less than 1 or number is greater than 10. And then I have my opening and my closing curly brace. The only problem is that the OR in C++ is the dual pipes. So that is the shift key above the forward slash, or it's the key of the forward slash. So I'm going to use the dual pipes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell them that let's see out something like, because this is an error, right? I'm going to see out something like invalid input. Tell them what they got wrong. And then I'm going to ask them again, enter a number between 1 and 10. So I'm going to tell them that they got it wrong. I'm going to ask for them to do it again, and I'm going to have them do it again. So I'll read in number again. And then we're going to run the program and see what happens. So here it goes. It's asking me for a number between 1 and 10. What if I put in 15? Invalid input. What if I put in a minus 12? Invalid input. What if I put in 200? It seems to me that the only way that I'm going to be able to get through here is by putting in a number between 1 and 10. So we'll close that. I'm actually going to put a little bit of space between that second prompt. So we're going to repeat this exact same scenario, but we're going to use a do while, and then we're going to see if there's a difference between the two of them. So I'll open it up with my do. I'll come down here and I'll put my while with the semicolon at the end. And then inside of here, I'm going to see out the same kind of statement. I'm going to say enter a number between, and instead of 1 and 10, how about if I say 2 and 11, just so I can tell that we are in a different looping structure. And we need my opening. There we go. Oh, see. Visual Studio is so helpful. There we go. All right. So then I'm going to see a number again. See a num. And then the same while loop is going to say while num is less than, we set a number between 2 and 10 or 11, so I'm going to say that. Or with the dual pipes again, is greater than 11. So I'm just going to change up the input just a little bit so that I can tell that I'm in my while versus my do while. All right, now let's run it and see what happens. So here's my first prompt. This is my while. 1 and 10, if I put in 20, if I put in a negative 20, if I put in a 45, each time it says invalid input, enter a number, and it prompts me for it again. So I'll put in something valid. This is my do while. Enter a number between 2 and 11. So if I put 20, it prompts me again. 200, a minus 20, it just keeps prompting me again. This time when I put in a valid number, it should let me through. Now just looking at that output, can you see a difference between the while and the do while? Stop the video if necessary because I'd like you to think about it and then come up with an answer. What is the obvious difference between forcing valid input with a while and a do while? All right, so if you said that in a while loop, I'm able to tell the user that they got it wrong and prompt it again. So I prompted for the number at the very top, and then when they got it wrong, I told them that they got it wrong and I prompted again. The do while, on the other hand, just repeats the exact same prompt every single time, not indicating to the user that they got it wrong. So they might be going, what the heck? What the heck? I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I actually prefer the while over the do while when I'm forcing valid input because I can change the prompt. I can tell them they got it wrong and I can change the prompt. Other people prefer the do while because just do it again. Just ask them again until they get it right. So what other things that we might want to do to force valid input? Now I can force a range of values. What about if I don't want to allow a specific value? So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an integer variables. I'll call them numerator and denominator. And since I don't want to have to spell it all the way out, we'll make these numerators and denominators. I'll create a char variable called slash. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to enter a fraction. And then I'm going to give them an example of what I want that fraction to look like. So my example is going to be 1/2 or something like that. So I'm going to give an example of what I want that to look like. And then I am going to cn. First we'll have the numerator, and then we'll cn a slash or whatever operator. Hopefully they put the slash. And then we'll put the denominator there. So I'm going to read in all three of them after they have put them in. And then I will say while the denominator is equal to, what is one thing the denominator of a fraction should not equal? If you said 0, you are absolutely right. So I'll put my comment on my closing curly brace, and while the denominator is equal to 0, I'm going to tell them that they got it wrong. So I'm going to say something like, the denominator cannot be 0. So I'm going to tell them that they got it wrong, and then I'm going to have them do it again. So we're going to do it again. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to prompt them again. I'm going to ask them for the fraction, and I'm going to read it in. Since I've already typed that in, if you don't mind, I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it in here. So we have to change the condition, right? Do it again. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell them they got it wrong, and then I'm going to prompt them again. So now let's run it and see how this one works. All right, so my program is having a problem with the fact that this variable already exists. I have already declared it there. I cannot declare it again. So this time, I'm just going to set it equal to, I'll change the declaration to just an initialization, and then we will declare int denominator, and I could initialize that to something as well. And now let's run it and see if it is happier. So I can tell that this is my original while loop, so I'm just going to put something that's valid in there. This is my do while because it had a different prompt, so I'll put something valid in there. And then we're going to enter a fraction, 1/2, or some kind of a fraction, like 15/95. So it should be happy. So let's run it again. And this time I'm going to see if I can enter an invalid input into the denominator. All right, so I'll put both of these as 5, enter a fraction, and I'm going to put 15/0 and see if it'll drop into my while loop. Denominator cannot be 0, enter a fraction. How about 15, how about if we do something like 25/0? Still can't be 0. Okay, how about 2/0? Still cannot be 0. So now I'll put I'll put a valid denominator, and it should let me through. All right, so if we cannot allow a very specific value, I don't want you to key that in. It seems like the next thing that we should be able to do is force a very specific value to exit. So we've already tried this. We're going to do it again. So I'm going to create a char variable. I'll call it again. Oops, my caps lock is on. I'm going to create a char variable, and we'll call it again. And then we're going to use, how about if we use a do while to do this, because we can force valid input with either the while or the do while. So I'll change that to a while immediately. Inside of here, I'm going to see out something like, that was fine. So there is my, whatever I want to do inside of my do while. And then we are going to change the condition. Inside of a while or a do while, we always have to change the condition. So the way I'm going to change the condition is I'm going to ask them if they want to do it again, and then I'm going to give them examples of what I want them to key in, yes or no. So this is exactly what I want them to key in, and then I'm going to cin again. And now I know what I want my condition to be on the while loop, and this is going to say while again is not equal to no. So do you want to do it again? The only way they're going to get out of this loop is if they say, no, I don't want to do it again. So this is going to force a very specific value in order to exit the loop. So let's run it and see what happens. Here we go. That was fun. Do it again. And if I say yes, if I say sure, because it's a char variable that I'm reading, SURE, 4 char variables, read it 4 separate times. If I say what, it's going to read it 4 times. If I put in a Y, if I say no, it captures that N and it dropped me out. So let me run it again. and we will move through these original ones. Now, if I type in Y, if I type in D, S, T, they're going to have to type in a very specific value to get out, and that ends the program. So if I can force a specific value to exit, can I trap them in there until trapping them in there until they give me a very specific value to get out. I can also just drop them out unless they give me a very specific value. I know it sounds like a matter of semantics, and it is. This one requires a specific value to get out. I can have another one that will drop them out unless they give me a specific value to stay in. All right, so we're going to force a specific value to repeat. We can do this with a do, either one. So let's try the do. Oops, my caps lock is on again. With my opening and my closing curly brace, I'll put the while here. I'm going to put the semicolon at the end of my while. I'll come back for a minute for what the condition is. And then I'm going to see out something like, this is still more fun than Java. I don't know. What do you think? Is it still more fun than Java? We'll force a new line inside of here. Maybe not as much fun as Python, but it is definitely more fun than Java. I don't know. Anyway, so let's see if we can change the condition, because inside of these, a while or a do while, we have to change the condition. So I'm going to see out again. I'm asking them if they want to do it again. And this time I am going, and as always, excuse me, it's always, you have to give them the sentinel value. So I'm going to say y/no. They need to know the sentinel value to be able to exit. I'm going to read that in. That one is again. And now, in order to force a specific value to repeat, everything else will drop them out unless they give me a very specific value. The condition inside of my while loop is going to be while, again, I want to repeat as long as again is equal to y, and specifically a lowercase y. The only way it's going to repeat is if they type in a y. They can type in anything else that they want to, but since I want it to be a lowercase y, and I'm going to allow them, if their caps lock is trapped on or something like that, let's see if we can force the input to lowercase, because caps lock, right? I just had my caps lock stuck on here. So I'm going to say again equals to lower. That is the name of the function that we're going to use. And inside of these parentheses on the to lower function is going to be the char variable that I'm trying to force to a lowercase. There we go. So now, if their caps lock is trapped on and they put a capital, I'm going to force it to lowercase, and then I'm going to check it against a lowercase y. So let's run the program and see what we get. All right, so once we run through our first looping structures, this says this is still more fun than Java. Do you want to do it again? And the only way that it's going to repeat it if I key in yes. Anything else that I key in, is going to drop out. So I know it's a matter of semantics, but it seems like the first way that we did it on line 45 is, if you wanted to get out, I'm trapping you in there until you give me my sentinel value to get out. And in the second do while on line 56, and I could repeat these with the while loops as well, the only way that it's going to repeat is if you give me the very specific value to repeat. It sounds like it's a matter of semantics, and it is, but just depends on whether or not you want to trap them in there until they give you a value to get out, or you just want to drop them out unless they give you a very specific value. All right.